Right, here we are. We are live, and what I really want to do is go live with Billy. Is that Billy coming? There you are, messing with me to the end there. I'm like looking for China, but there's Billy Idol. Hey, Billy.
Yay.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi there,
man.
everybody. Hi there, John.
Thank you so much for doing this. You know, it's been a.
What boys?
I like it.
Boys
I
keep
like it.
swinging. I've got.
I like that. I like that countdown that we've had. You know, it was like a Frazier Ali fight. You know, it's been coming for like the last 12 hours on on China's feed.
Yeah.
You know, I've been doing this thing. It's been sort of keeping me sane during this lockdown. I've been doing this every week. I've been doing a bass tutorial. I've been really looking into my music, the music that I've made, and how it all happened. So I really want to talk about like beginnings and like, you know, would you say you came from a musical family?
Actually, I did on my Irish side. I mean, back in the old days, most people, they had to entertain themselves. So most people in families did play an instrument. But actually, on my Irish side, my Irish grandmother could play 14 instruments. She could play the accordion, the violin, the viola, the piano. She could play, and she could also write music. So, and actually, my Irish family, my grandparents and their children, they actually had a group, you know, where my granddad played the drums and my uncles played the sax and stuff, and my mother sang, you know. So funnily enough, yeah, there is a little bit of a musical
Yeah.
side
I mean, I
to our
guess
family.
before radio came along and before the gramophone, you know, there was a certain responsibility, you know, on at least one person in the family to play a bit of something, because otherwise there'd be no music in a working class family home, would there?
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, people had to entertain themselves, unless they had the radio, of course. But yeah, people tended to play instruments, I think, back in, they still do today, but not as much, I expect.
So was that your mother's side of the family, the Irish side?
Yeah, that's right, mate.
Mine too.
O'Sullivan,
I had
actually.
the same. I had the same thing. I had the Irish side. Um, but so, what was the first instrument that you picked up, and so how old were you?
Well, I really started playing the drums because, as I said, my granddad was a bit of a drummer, and I initially started out wanting to play the drums, and he gave me a Ringo Starr snare drum when I was like 5 or something. Well, I was in the Beatles six or something, but I got a little banjo. I was on my way to America when I was 3, and he gave me a little banjo. So actually, my first instrument is a miniature banjo
Oh,
because
that's funny.
my granny could play a banjo. She could play the banjo, the violin, the accordion, and you know. So
I mean, I kind of, you know, there was nobody that really played around me. So, you know, and you know, I was looking, I was reading a book yesterday, and actually, we've got a very similar journey. You were a couple of years ahead of me, your influences, you know, but the way that we gravitated to music was not dissimilar. And you know, and I kind of like I was into sort of progressive and glam, but you know, you kind of had to really be able to play to do that stuff. And you know, and I wanted a guitar, but nobody taught me about tuning it or anything like that. But the Pistols really, and that when that thing happened, I was like, I've got to play. I've got to figure out how to do this. Was that similar for you? Was that a similar thing?
yeah, well, I started playing the guitar when I was about 10. You know,
Oh,
because
right.
I went, wait a minute, you know, Ringo doesn't sing, doesn't write the songs. He's at the back. He's a massive
Right.
Beatle fan when I was really young, you know. I loved all rock and roll, really. I loved the Who and everybody. But yeah, you know, the Ringo's at the back. And I realized John and Paul are writing all the songs. So, you know, I gravitated from the drums. When I was about 10, I started to play the guitar and teach myself, really. Because because my parents actually, they got me violin lessons, and I was so embarrassed playing the violin because I wanted to play guitar. Why can't I have guitar lessons? Or, no,
Right.
you've got to play the violin. But I don't want to play the violin. Anyway, so I would cycle. I was cycling to Worthing High School to on a Saturday sometimes to have a lesson. I never practiced, so I hated. I would cycle this ridiculous route to get to the school so that no
Late.
one would see me with a fucking violin. And one day someone saw me and I was like, that's fucking it. But I never rehearsed. I never got beyond Three Blind Mice.
It's funny, that drum background, though, it's really useful, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of the great singers like Iggy, Steven Tyler. I mean, actually having a grounding in kind of how the drums work in rock is, I think you can, whether you're a singer or a guitar player or whatever you do, you
Well,
know,
Paul McCartney is a
yeah,
great drummer. And so I think, you know, he mentally was always a drummer. So he's thinking, I think a lot of those drum parts, I know Ringo's a great drummer, but I've got a feeling like those ends to Ticket to Ride and things like that.
yeah,
It's all Paul saying, hey. Because you
right.
hear that on his solo records. You hear, like on Band on the Run, that's him playing drums all the way. In fact, Keith Moon said to him, I love the drums on Band on the Run. Who played on it? And he said, me, you know, and he's a killer drummer. So,
Wow.
yeah, I always worked with drummers too. Keith Forsey, my main producer, was a drummer, you know,
Yes.
and even Phil Wayman, we worked with him in Generation X. He recorded the Sweet. Actually, it's him, Phil Wayman, playing drums on the Sweet records. I don't
Is
think
it?
he didn't let them play on their own records. They just
Wow.
sang on them. I'm sad to hear about Steve,
Steve, yeah.
R.I.P. But they were great singers, so they sang on their records. But I don't know if they played. Maybe the guitar player played on them, but I know Phil Wayman played the drums.
We definitely, we wouldn't be having this conversation if it weren't for A, China, and B, the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
And how, can you tell me about, I mean, it's hard, I think, for people who weren't there to appreciate the enormity, what the Pistols did, what they created in our, you know, in that moment. A youthquake they created. You were one of the first, like, you were one of the first adopters of the Pistols. Can you tell me about where you first saw them and what happened, how you were introduced to them?
Well, I was actually down in university. I was at Sussex University in Brighton, and but my mates had seen the Pistols at Bromley Tech College because there was always gigs at Bromley Tech, and they sent Steve Severin of the Banshees. Steve Bailey was then. He sent me a card saying, "Get back up here. We've seen the band we've been waiting for." So of course I came immediately. So I was only an hour away, and they were doing a residency at the 100 Club every Tuesday night. So I started to go in. It was like 75, and they were doing every Tuesday, like in March through April, maybe May, maybe, I don't know. But I started to go, and like, you know, at first they were just doing covers, but Johnny was changing the lyrics. That was the big thing. He would take a song which may be saying, I want you to know that I love you, baby.
Yeah.
He would sing, I want you to know I don't love you, baby. I want you to know I don't care. So that was going on for a start. But then one day, suddenly, they started to play a song, and we went, oh, fucking hell, wait a minute. What's this? This isn't a cover. And it was Pretty Vacant, I think, was the first one. And it was killer. You know, you went, well, that's their own song. So you saw this, the growth. You were seeing this growth right in front
Yeah.
of you. And they
Yes.
were getting a little bit better every week. And they just didn't have a stage act, really. They were just fucking around up there. But when they played, it was serious, you know. So it was really exciting. And then the next song that they put in was Anarchy.
Yeah.
So hearing that bass line for the first time, and then the I am an Antichrist, I am an Anarchist. It was like not only brilliant but funny all at the same time. You just went, wow, this is incredible. And then their attitude was nothing like you'd ever seen before, apart from Iggy or someone, you know. Johnny's attitude was just incredible. So the whole thing was like a, you know, wow. And then it just showed you, man, look at these guys. I actually thought they were 3 years older than me because they seemed a lot more worldly, you know, and but really, I'm actually younger than Johnny Rotten. But anyway, the basic thing was they made you realize, man, even if you're not the greatest, you can get up there and do it. They were giving you this opening that we, I think, you know, because of, say, Led Zeppelin, people like that, they were all such great musicians. Jimmy Page and people like that. You couldn't imagine, how the fuck do we get up there? We're watching. But then you saw punk rock, the Velvet Underground, people like that, sort of showing you, you don't always have to be the most incredible musician. It's more what's in your heart and your soul, spirit.
And who do you remember as like the next band that came along and you thought, oh, they're followers of the Pistols? Was it the Clash? Did you see them next?
Well, I'd met Tony James soon after, you know, because I wanted to start my own group. I was never going to be in the Banshees playing guitar, but I just knew I wasn't really good enough to be a lead guitarist. I was okay. I was okay for me playing to sing to myself. But yeah, the next band was Tony James was really friendly with Mick Jones of the Clash.
Yeah.
So I was watching the early Pistols, and then with Tony, I was watching all the early Clash gigs. Like with their second gig, I saw at the Screen on the Green. It was this festival with Buzzcocks, Clash with Keith Levine. They had they were a five-piece for the only time, I think. And then it was Pistols at the Screen on the Green. So you saw the scene growing as well. So it was really exciting. And just seeing the different bands writing songs, and they were kind of great. That was the thing. They weren't just okay, you know, they were killer. You know, you kind of go, wow. Even the first Clash song, White Riot or something, was killer. You know, you just went, wow. And it was so much fun. And then you just seeing people our age doing it. It was like, wow, you can do it. Why not do it? Why not do the thing you love, man? That's what they were telling you. And then people, well, if you want to be a photographer, pick up a camera. If you want to be an artist, come and draw artwork for a fanzine or anything. Be a journalist, start a fanzine. So it's all very homemade, but it was a lot of fun.
So you and Tony, you're like, we got to do something. We got to get our own thing going. But you actually, first of all, the two of you join the group Chelsea.
That's right. Yes. We actually. I'd actually gone for an audition first, but then I said we didn't have a bass player in Chelsea, so I started to say to them, "I've got this friend who can play bass." So they said, "Well, do you write songs together?" And I went, "Yeah, of course we do." So he said, "Okay, go off. You and I sort of introduced them to Tony, and then this guy, John Cravine, his name was. He ran. It was the place across from it's not Alcashura, oh God, Acme Attractions. He ran Acme Attractions. It's kind of the clothes shop that was, vying for the Kings Road punks with Vivienne Westwood, really, and the sex store. But anyway, he said, if you can write a song for this band, which was kind of a little bit of a retro band, Chelsea, you can and it's good. You can join. So we came back with Ready, Steady, Go, and I'm still doing it today.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so we got in Chelsea, and soon after that, we started to realize, really, Chelsea's a bit retro. We really want to be in a punk rock group, and now me and Tony were writing the songs, and really they were for me to sing. That's what we were really doing. We were planning.
Right. I mean, and how was that? What was that decision like? I think, Billy, you should be the singer.
We started to write a song called Youth, Youth, Youth. And Gene October, who's the lead singer in Chelsea, was 30. Oof. And I was 20. And we were kind of, me and Tony were looking at each other going, how does somebody 30 sing Youth, Youth, Youth? That's how young we were. Somebody 30 was already old, so. But anyway, it was just a little bit to do with, we just thought, I wasn't a great enough guitar player to really be the lead guitarist, so I couldn't really tune up on stage. I had to just tune up before the gig and hope to hell it didn't go out. So
I'm still a bit like that, Billy.
So I started to look for a guitarist, and I found Bob Derwood Andrews at a youth club playing Black Sabbath and Jimi Hendrix and Deep Purple. But I went, this guy can really play. And I got him to come down to a Generation X rehearsal, and he auditioned and he joined the band. He was great, so I gave him my guitar. The guitar I was using, I gave it to him as a kind of, you're the guitarist, man. One instrument, one job in punk,
I was just at the age where I missed the first chapter. I didn't see the Pistols. but you guys, Generation X, were like my band. You know, I was like, first time you came to Birmingham, I was there. I got the first single the day it came out, and it really spoke to me because I was an art student. There was I think it showed how much meat there was in the punk thing. You could really expand. There was a lot of room for experimentation, you knew we don't do what the Pistols are doing. We don't do what the Clash do. You find your own thing. And you guys really had that when you
That's
came out.
definitely what punk was really all about. You had to be yourself, really. I think I always felt Lou Reed was always telling us, you know, without ever saying it, be yourself. And David Bowie were really always saying, you've got to find who you are and be that. So yeah, so that was one great thing about the early punk rock groups in England and in the States. You know, Blondie wasn't like
Talking
television.
Heads.
Television weren't like Talking Heads, and then the
Yeah.
Pistols weren't like the Clash. Clash
Right.
weren't like the Buzzcocks. We weren't like the Susan and the Banshees. Susan and the Banshees weren't like. So that was the idea as well. Everybody kind of coming with their own vision, and then joining art with it too. I mean, I think that's what was a big factor with the Pistols and the Clash. And then with us too, we very much started to create our own artwork, spray painting, T-shirts, and then we started to do these Russian constructivist kind of. We did for the first single, had a 45 that was done as shapes and squares and triangles, and kind of with a Russian constructivist idea. So we're putting a little bit of the kind of the artwork we loved in with. Tony also could draw too, so he could draw on his T-shirts. And then I would make shapes and things, and or write 77, and then when it's 78, I put some big 78. And then I did write this T-shirt that had "Women Love Gen X," and then I cut it down the sides, and it rolled in, and it said "Men Love."
Oh,
I went, I'm
the
going to go with it.
The other thing,
because this is what it's about. I'm going to go with it. Fuck it. This is what it's all about. So.
Yeah. Also, at that time, like the whole anti-Nazi league and that Rock Against Racism thing started to happen as well. You know, not unlike to what we're seeing now. And that particular movement, Gen X, I remember being very much a part of that. You guys did a lot of Rock Against Racism gigs where they started aligning punk and reggae. You know, and that thing started to come together. And I think that was important as well, wasn't it? That element.
Well, reggae was, to us in England, reggae was the other kind of revolutionary music that we could look to, because they had dramatically, from the mid-60s through the mid-70s, they were dramatically going through stylistic changes from ska to reggae to roots rock reggae to dancehall. And so for us, also what they were saying, they also had this prediction, and Marcus Garvey made a prediction that in 1977 we're going to go well dread. So it was as if, and there was punk happening, and so it was as if this was all predicted. You know, so you had this kind of little bit of a mystical side to reggae, but also the soul. There's a soul side, and I think that we brought that into reggae, into punk that way, by sort of having a reggae influences and using some reggae sound effects. We would spin things, and one of the first things we did, experimental things Generation X did, on Wild Youth, the B-side, we did a dub version. So we actually had an A-side, and the B-side was the dub, just like a reggae single. So we were taking we're taking a lot of ideas we were seeing and kind of having fun with it. And we actually produced that ourselves, the Wild dub, because Phil Wayman wanted nothing to do with, he'd had enough with us anyway, but he didn't want anything to do with Wild dub. So we actually produced that ourselves.
It actually went a bit south as well, didn't it? Because on the one hand, yes, you had the sort of, that side to the movement, but then you had the hardcore. We started to see the skinhead revival. And then that turned really nasty. And I mean, I remember going to several gigs in that period, around about maybe early 78, where things got really nasty. I remember a Gen X gig in particular at Barbarella's in Birmingham. And you guys, I mean, you were just crossing over, and it was like, wow, I think King Rocker had been on, you'd done Top of the Pops, which was like the ultimate pop blessing. On the Thursday, then you come into Birmingham, you've just about got the new album out. You come in as like heroes, and there's just like a contingent near the front of the stage that I if I remember right, I think it drove you guys off the stage in the end. It was so
Yeah,
intense.
just a million beer
Yeah,
pint glasses
yeah,
smashed on the drum kit behind me, and they're just, it really was just, yeah, we just. But I saw that happened a lot up in Birmingham. I think I saw suicide. I saw suicide get bottled off before the Clash. So it just showed you,
yeah.
it's just what was going on.
Man, I
Actually,
read that.
funnily enough, in the old back in England, they spat at you if they liked you.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of weird stuff like that going on, and but yeah, the Rock Against Racism was really important. And I think punk was very inclusive of people, and then you had these other movements that sprung up. Kind of the Skinners were very into the National Front. That's very pro-white, hate the immigrants. Whereas we were a lot more influenced by the immigration, and also we were just a lot more inclusive. Punk was an inclusive movement
yeah.
about all races and all creeds. Really, I think that's what's great about it.
When did you, when you first, I mean, I know you came to New York for a promo trip, for Gen X, but you making the move as a becoming a solo artist and coming to New York. I mean, also for me, that was following somebody like yourself. That was amazing that you made that move. And I remember when we first came to New York in the summer of '81, Money Money was everywhere. Everywhere you went, that song was, and it was like, yeah, that guy from Gen X, he's a star here. How did that transition happen for you coming to America?
Well, we actually started to have an American manager, Bill O'Coin. He'd managed Kiss, because Tony James had said as a joke, why don't we get to the heads of the record company? Why don't we get the guy? We didn't have a manager. We'd had gone through a terrible thing with a manager we had. We had to go to High Court Injunction. It was like, oh God, it was horrible.
Mm.
But we ended up with an American manager, Bill O'Coin, who was really fantastic. And of course, he really wanted me to come to America when I did decide to go solo, which I'd never ever thought of, by the way. I mean, I really hadn't. But yeah, when Gen X really ended, and I decided to go solo, and I already had an American manager really who he'd come from television originally. He'd been in television, so he kind of knew the cable world that was coming, and he knew about MTV. He knew there was going to be a 24-hour cable channel that was going to be all about music. So that was another reason. But it was just to start again, really. How do you start again? If I started in England, I just thought, I know what's going to happen. They're going to think you've had it. You're a has-been. You've already been, you've blown it, kind of thing. You've had it. You've done it. It was really a good idea to go somewhere else and just start again and look for new, like-minded people. I knew I could find them in New York, and another thing, through Bill O'Coin, eventually he knew Steve Stevens.
Right.
And once you put us together,
people, something about being a solo act, Billy. I always say there really is no such thing, is there? You're as good as your collaborators, whether it's your name on the marquee or it's a band or whatever. You've got to have a team. You've just got to have a team. Otherwise, you're in a vacuum, and it's just. I mean, Steve is. I mean, he's a fucking giant of the guitar, and Keith Forsey you mentioned earlier, because
that's right. I mean,
he was the drummer on like the Sparks stuff that Giorgio Moroder produced, right?
Yeah, he wrote Hot Stuff for Donna Summer. It was they were having trouble writing a song for her, and they were hungry, so they called out for some pizza. And when it arrived, it had Hot Stuff pizza. So they went, that's it. So he was writing songs but it was great with me. He really sort of helped. He let me write my own songs and just helped me when I needed help. He didn't try to write for me. He just really helped me to bring out what I kind of had inside myself, and he was fantastic at that.
It defines that the early '80s. We often think about what really defines that sound, and you've got the punk. You've still got the energy, the hangover of the energy from punk, but you've got to dance to it. You've got to be able to dance to it. There was something about being dance floor friendly at the start of the '80s, and your stuff, the sound on those early '80s records was just phenomenal. It's
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I was listening to Joy Division and people like that, and they were straightening the drums out. They really didn't,
yeah.
there's no roller coaster stuff. Whereas in Generation X, we had a lot of roller coasters, a bit more like Keith Moon, the
Mm,
drumming.
mm.
Well, I was listening to, the Joy Division and people like that, and a lot of electronic music, and the drums were always very simple and just were kind of sexy and just, or Grace Jones and people like that. I don't know, I didn't just listen to punk sort of thing. So
Mm.
I started to want the music, the drumming to be straight down the line. And through Bill O'Coin too, Kiss were on Casablanca, Giorgio Moroder.
Right.
He asked Giorgio Moroder. Giorgio said, I don't want to do it, but I've got this drummer friend. And Keith came to England, and the first thing we recorded was Dancing with Myself. He really showed, it was my idea that me and Tony then finished. And it was just fantastic to see it taken to its ultimate place. And the song, the recording was just incredible. And I just knew Keith, the guy. We put it out in England, and it only got to number 60. Just didn't get anywhere. But, it's never really been a massive hit song, if you know what I mean. But it was a hit video. It's been a hit advertising. It's I don't know. It's really wild, but it's did really well. And that was the thing. We sort of found the Billy Idol formula with the Dancing with Myself. And then we kind of carried that on in the States with White Wedding and Rebel Yell. And
I had to do some research on this, but in March of 1984, you and Duran played together in Syracuse at the Carrier Dome. And as I was going through all my, artifacts, I came across the Hairspray bill for that show. And between the two bands, it ran into 5 figures.
That's right. Well, Steve Stevens with the ozone torturing.
Well, and Andy Taylor, hello,
All that Aquanet,
Yeah.
whatever we were using, was killed the ozone layer.
Yeah. I also love another song of yours that I love is To Be a Lover. And I think I'm not big on cover versions generally, but I feel that cover of it's a Stax song by William Bell.
That's right. But I initially heard the reggae version because I had this great album by George Faith that Lee Scratch Perry had produced called To Be a Lover. And it's great. It's got all these old American soul songs, which they've taken and I just slowed them right up or whatever, and it's got some great. It's a great album, and it's really trippy at the same time. Anyway, so I really heard this song as a very slow reggae song, and I just thought we were looking for a single in Whiplash Smile around that time in '86. So I liked To Be a Lover, and I thought, well, what about if you just sped it up? What about if I just sped it up and make it like rockabilly? And then I took it to Keith, and we made it more R&B. We took it away from the rockabilly thing and made it more R&B, and put that piano on it and stuff, and it just came out great. And then it was only when we actually kind of came to really the publishing, that we kind of found out, it's not a reggae. It's this old Stax song that William Bell, and the William Bell version is even slower than the reggae version. So, but anyway, one day I was at a party. It was John Belushi, and then there's who's the other
Dan
actor?
Aykroyd.
The Blues Brothers. Dan
Aykroyd.
Peter Aykroyd. I was at a Peter Aykroyd party here in Los Angeles. Dan Aykroyd there, Bill Murray and people. And then I was just standing there, and then this long-haired guy came up to me. It was Steve Cropper, who played on the original. And he said, I really love what you did with To Be a Lover. And I just went, wow, this is Steve Cropper saying this, it's really heavy. That's fantastic.
And the video is great. I mean, it's the Elvis boxing ring. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's exactly what David Mallet said as well. Let's do the Elvis boxing ring.
When did you move to LA?
About 87, late 87. Me and the lady I was with, Perry Lister, we decided to have a child. So I've been through 6 winters in New York, and I love New York, but it just was kind of a beautiful idea. A lot of people were out here who'd lived in New York. Steve Jones was out here riding bikes, and Brian Setzer and stuff. And just seemed like, wow, a lot of people were kind of cleaning up a bit too,
Yeah.
or, you know, like kind of coming out here deliberately, kind of get away from the vampire existence. So that's initially why I was out here. And eventually it did work. It took a long time, but eventually, yeah, eventually living out here and the sort of daytime existence and stuff and riding bikes and stuff, we had to be together to ride a
Yes.
cycle. You can't just be, you know, I soon learned about that. You can't be fucked up riding a bike and stuff. So it took me a while to really sort of curb my addictions and things, but I eventually did it and had a lot to do with moving out to Los Angeles, really.
You're super fit, Billy. I mean, you know, you look great. I mean, I know that you get it, as do I. People are like, wow, how do you guys keep? I mean, it takes a lot of work though, doesn't it? I know you work really hard at staying fit.
Well, the singer, this is the instrument. You really have to, the energy you need, and you really need to. A lot of it was initially, it was a lot to do with me trying to clean up initially. That's what the working out. Also, I wanted to ride a Harley, you see, and I was very drug addicted and very skinny. So the Harley is 750 pounds or something. So the bike was going to ride. So I deliberately was working out to kind of be able to ride a motorcycle really and get fit. And also I was thinking about, it took me a while though, I kind of kept sabotaging my getting off drugs. I kept sabotaging it for a while, but eventually it worked. And a lot to do was coming out here, the discipline of working out, making that a big part of your day, where that you had to do it, you know. Initially, I had this thing, if you work out, you can take drugs. I had this thing,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
really the worst thing to say, because then I worked out like a fiend and then got really fucked up. But after a while, I realized that working out was really paying off, and then you didn't want to screw up the workout by being fucked up. So eventually, over time, took a long time, but the working out really worked in the end, and then it paid off because, yeah, to be a singer, you really need all your energy, and especially the show I do. You just can't do that and not be, I don't know, you can't be out of breath trying to do that. So, so yeah, there's a lot to do with, there's a couple of reasons why I started to work out, and it's paid off, I think, in spades, actually.
You mentioned Steve Jones, and I mean, Steve, I think is he's such a totem for us out here in LA, and he's helped me enormously as well. And yeah, actually, and I was thinking, I mean, I saw you guys I saw Generation Sex at the Roxy, and that looked like you were having fun.
Yeah, it was great. Really fantastic.
But we actually did.
Always jammed. Me and Tony James had jammed with Cookie and Jonesy back in 1977 at a Christmas show kind of thing. We'd always had a little bit of a connection with them just through being fans, but also we played together. So it was just a lovely idea to kind of, I think Johnny Rotten was kind of doing Public Image and didn't really want to do a Pistols reunion. So it was our way of kind of doing something, kind of mark the time 40 years ago, really, when we were first putting out records, and we did the combo of Generation X music and Sex Pistol music. So it's fun for me. I got to sing some Sex Pistol stuff.
Yeah.
And then
My Way was
yeah.
great. But you tried to describe Steve's playing style in the book. I say try because it's quite tricky, isn't it? Because he's like, I mean, I feel he's like Chuck Berry almost. It's like there's not like a huge amount of technique, but there's nobody else that can do what he does. And once he starts to play, that's Steve Jones, that's his.
He's very muscular. I've always thought he's got a muscular sound. It's like, and it's just the way he puts his hand on the guitar, because I've seen him plug into an amplifier without doing anything to it. And it's that sound. It's just in his hands.
Yeah. Actually, Ronson has something. Mick Ronson has a similar thing when you see Mick do those sort of demos, and he's just got a telly through a Fender, and yet it sounds like a Les Paul through a Marshall. He's got that thing. But actually, I remember we did play a few gigs together, the Neurotic Outsiders. We went to Boston and New York, and then we played Ready Steady Go, and
that's what we did, that kind of theater tour.
Yeah. And that was kind of amazing. I always remember that about you. You were like, he's always reading. You always had a book with you. You're a real reader. Are you still a reader?
Yeah, this I do read quite a lot. Yeah, especially when I'm traveling and stuff. I just because you know you can get quite bored traveling at times with the, and it's just great to sometimes having a great book really helps you get
Definitely.
through on a tour and stuff.
How has this lockdown been going for you?
Well, funnily enough, the last few years I was deliberately working really hard. I just had this thought that I should work really hard until I'm nearly 65, and then I'll see what happens. And it's funny that this all happened because, well, we're not 100% sure just exactly how we're going to do live performances. And obviously, we've talked about maybe we can do our acoustic show that me and Steve do. You could do that too, with only a very few people there, all spaced apart, and stream it, something like that. But, we're talking about to do, but I'm really glad that I worked really hard because actually this is a natural kind of break, which I'm just glad I really put a lot of time in. So we're just not exactly sure how soon things are going to,
Right.
I don't know. We're not sure what exactly is going to happen from here on in terms of live performance, but obviously we'll find some way of doing it.
Yeah.
What we're working on really right now is some new music. That's what's great. I'm
Is
going
that what
out
you're
to work
doing?
with Steve this afternoon.
That's great news. I'm sure everybody's going to be really happy to hear that. I turned on the questions and comments. At least I think I did. I mean, I'm still trying to figure this thing out. I think I think I've turned on. Oops, no, I just
No, you
reversed.
did. We can see
just
them.
I just reversed myself. Oh, and there I am. Okay, you can see questions, can you?
Yeah.
Love NBO. Okay, so if there's anybody out there and they've got questions for what? Yeah,
John, do you know how to look in the question section?
I thought questions from your viewers will show up here. Turn on questions. Okay, I've turned on questions.
In the meantime, can we say a happy belated birthday to Nicholas Rhodes?
Oh, good idea.
Oh, yeah.
Good idea.
Yes.
Happy birthday
Yeah.
to
Happy
you.
birthday, Nick.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nick.
Nick.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to you.
you. Many more.
Yeah.
So it's so bizarre. There's a lot of comments, but there was a lot of excitement about the tour. What's your? Oh, I knew you were going to get that one, Billy. What's your favorite Duran Duran song?
He's looking at me because he's looking at me.
No,
Okay.
it's not even fair. Let's drop that one up.
I'll tell you the ones I like to listen to, and then you can say.
Yeah.
My favorites are Hold Back the Rain.
Yeah,
Remember, I love that one. And I love New Moon on Monday. I like these weird ones that you guys don't play all the time. The other night, we watch There's Something You Should Know.
Oh yeah.
We watched the documentary, remember?
That's a lot of fun. That was
Actually, I got a question.
it was that
Forget about
BBC one you
and
did.
and Simon, when he was little, singing in the remember he was singing in the choir.
Oh yes,
it was the
that
cutest
recording.
thing.
That recording they had, the record.
I've got a question from my production assistant, aka Gila. She wants to know about White Wedding and how that's like her go-to song. That was her to her first husband's song. So tell us a little bit about how that song, because that's another masterpiece. How did that song come together?
Well, I was I'd come to Los Angeles with my group, with Steve and everything to record out here at Westlake Studios with Keith Forsey. And we just didn't. We had some songs, but we didn't really have like a killer single or something like that. We just didn't quite have the icing on the cake or the really great song. So Keith stuffed me in the studio one day with a drum machine and my guitar, and just left me in there. And I just had boop bat, and then and I was thinking about the fact my sister was getting married. And I just started to think, well, what about if I just started to think about it like, I thought, well, I just thought about what about if I wasn't happy about her getting married? What about if I didn't like who she's marrying? What about if I was a bit of an incest? I was bringing incest into it. I started to think, what about if I'm coming back? I don't know. What about it? I'm coming back with revenge or something. I don't know what I was thinking. But I just wrote at the top of the page of the Fool's Gate, White Wedding. And then I started to write. I started to play I usually do things in B. And just started to play ding, 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 ding. And then I don't know what happened, but hey, little sister, what have you done? Came out, sort of thing. And then over a space of like, I don't know, I just left the tape running. I had a tape running and I just kept trying out things. And over the space of 20 minutes or so, I'd kind of got the ding, 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 bong, ding, 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 and things like that, which later on Steve added a kind of a flourish at the end. But a lot of it, I even had the middle bit, ding, 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 ding. Well, there's nothing fair. It was all stretched out on this long kind of, which then we kind of took the best bits and joined it together and kind of came up with the song, really. And then later on, I went back to the hotel where Steve and everybody was, and I played it to them. And then we came in the next day and started working on it.
It's amazing because how often do you get to write? I mean, that you get to write a song that becomes like an event song. I mean, how many thousands of people around the world, hundreds of thousands of weddings that have taken place since you wrote that song, where the song's been played. It's an anthem of a moment that just gets, it's amazing. It's amazing. And it's not in any way cheesy. And I think the way you just described how you went at it, the angle that you went at it, it's got this dark, slightly kind of naughty way of going at it, which is, I mean, actually, on the subject of family, I was going to mention, I mean, LeBon, he's a granddad twice now. And it's just, Gila was like, he might not want to talk about that, but I think you're very proud of your family. And, tell it, how does that feel? You've just been to see your grandchild.
It's pretty incredible, really. And she's so happy. And it's just lovely, really. It's gorgeous, I'm so happy for her. She's just so knocked out. It's so great. And she's 30 years old, so it's perfect. I thought this might happen. It's one of those things. I thought, you know what? She's going to meet one day. She'll suddenly meet the right guy. Anyway, it's fantastic. And that was one of the great things. I really watched. I didn't go out anywhere. I really kept the people during this coronavirus. I really stayed because I wanted to hold that baby. I didn't want to have a mask on. So I really watched everything. I didn't see anybody. I didn't go out for 2.5, nearly 3 months until I went to see that baby. So it was really important for me. And I would have been there at the hospital, but you just couldn't do that with the coronavirus. So
yeah. Well, everybody wants. Great. Everybody want, and also people are sort of asking about what you listen to. Like if you're just going to put some music on to sort of kick back, or what do you tend to put on?
Yeah, which depends. Sometimes it's old music, Roxy music, or something. If we're just having fun, and but I do a radio show, live transmission on Sirius XM, First Wave Channel 33, and so sometimes I'm listening to, some of the 70s punk, early 80s, and new wave stuff, and I do a sort of show where I kind of play some full-on punk and hardcore, and then I play dance, kind of 80s, the best of the 80s, 70s going into the 80s. So sometimes I'm listening to that at the moment, but just trying to think of some. Well, I listen to a little bit of Post Malone and things like that.
Yeah, he's quite popular in our house.
Yeah, it's kind of. Sometimes I just found there was things I liked. His Beer Bongs and Bentleys album, actually, I quite like that. So.
How did you like doing the residency, the Vegas residency?
Yeah, we actually did it. We did this 2-year one that in House of Blues, but then we started to do just a few dates a year at the Palms, and it's been really great, really, because you kind of get an audience. Part of the audience really knows your stuff, and there may be quite a lot of people there who've never seen a Billy Idol concert before. So you kind of, it's kind of quite good in that way, that you know there's some people there. You're getting new fans in a way. Of course, you do have to play a little bit of a greatest hits, but we always mix it up with some deep cuts, you know.
I always I like to know when my next meal is coming from, and I like to know when my next gig is, you know, because you've just got to keep yourself, you've got to be ready, haven't you? You've got to be prepared. It's
yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, yeah, you do have to keep yourself in a constant readiness, really, so that if it ever happens, you can get out there and rock, basically.
Well, I really want to thank you, man. I have a lot of love for you and admiration, and I really, really appreciate you, you know, us figuring it out, the technology. Thank you so much. Thank you, China, for making it happen. Thanks to Gila. Thanks for our crew in New York, Wendy, Caddy, Sharon, and more power to you, buddy.
Well, thank you,
See you
man.
soon.
I love Planet Earth.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I love the haircut.
Okay, we got one.
I love the your haircut where you've got your
Oh
hair
yeah, we
over
wanted
your
to
eyes.
ask you if you could see through your eyes and all of that when we're watching it.
Oh, well, I was only miming, I think.
We
Wasn't
can't
I?
talk about your Planet
You know.
Earth hairdo.
You want to talk about my funny hair? Really? You
Yeah.
want to go there?
Pretty incredible.
You really
I like
want to
it.
go there, do you? Well,
Yeah.
you know, I was a shy boy back then. I mean, you know, underneath these exteriors, there are shy boys, aren't there, Billy?
Yeah, I'm not always. Yes, you know,
We've learned how to come out.
Part of getting up there on stage is overcoming the shyness. Really, there's a little element of I think to be songwriters, we're a little bit inside ourselves, but we do have you know, what do you call it, a gregarious side or something,
Well,
or a side that. But it takes a lot to break through that. It's not stage fright. It's more. I am a little bit shy myself. So
I can see that, Billy. I mean, you know, you start out with a passion for music and appreciating music, and then thinking maybe I can be a creator of music. The next thing you know, you're on stage giving it all of this. Everybody's going nuts, and you're like, "What the hell did that happen?" You know. It's like, and how do I maintain as this character? You know, it's a journey though, and I love you, brother, and thank you so much.
fantastic. It's been great. Thank you, John.
All
Thank
right.
you, Duran fans. Thank you.
Thanks.
They're called Duranies.
Duranies.
Yeah.
Duranies.
Duranies.
Yay!
Yay!